Good morning, everybody, and welcome to the channel. Now, today we're going to be covering part 2 of the Toy Story decodes. And it goes without saying, of course, that we have to be very careful about how we talk about these topics. So Tom will try to help you in the chat when we start using coded language. Now, we pretty much had to do this decode over again just because the first time we did it, we were so fired up that we were just kind of just saying whatever we wanted back then. Well, now that's not allowed on these social media platforms. Ran into a situation in our Facebook group, and unfortunately I had to pull a moderator wrench because he got into a debate with a robot transformer and basically condemned that person. And basically Facebook said, we're going to take down your entire group. So I had to pull his wrench. Now, I don't know. Sometimes provocateurs come in. Understand that there are undercover people that go around and pretend to be your friend. And this is why we don't do too many collaborations anymore. Not to say that this has happened often, but it has happened. And they pretend to be your friend, pretend to be someone who believes in God and who's righteous. And then what happens is it's all just a big setup. And they'll try to corner you or get you in a situation or get your social media platform taken down. So I don't know if that's the case in this case, but it was kind of suspicious because this person came out, basically condemning us for not moderating the group enough, because there were some infiltrators already in the group posting things that don't jive with the Holy Spirit and don't jive with God's word. And I said, okay, well, I'll just make you a moderator then. Maybe you can clean it up for us because I don't have the time to do it. Well, a week went by, and then all of a sudden I'm getting a notification from Facebook saying one of your moderators, broke the rules, and now we are going to take down your group, which has about 5,000 people. Now, some people might have a problem with that, trying to protect the group. But as I've told you guys, basically, they want us off these bigger platforms. That's why they're trying to sideline us onto these backup platforms. And then I know there are different opinions about getting onto these alternative platforms, but understand that all of these alternative platforms, if you look in their terms and conditions, they're almost identical. In other words, they reserve the right to pull down content that they deem offensive. Okay. And so there is no safety net. There is no place to go that is completely, at least having the potential to be censorship free. So what they want is all of us to just go off of the main platforms on our own, which is what everyone's doing. We're giving in instead of standing our ground and just being a little bit more careful about how we talk about things, right? And some people call that weakness, but I postulate that if you go into the Bible and look, there were many instances where God's people working under God's will ran from things and threats. Lot, Noah, Jacob, and on and on and on. Getting out of situations, being discreet, changing the way we do things. So it is a biblical concept. Even Jesus, when he came back, was not recognized. Why do you think that was? So there's a lot going on with this, and it can get complex, but I wanted to explain a little bit of this before we get into this decode, because, there is a contingent of the truth community that believes that if you don't throw out the J words and if you don't say that as often as you can, that you're not legit. And believe me, we went down that road already and lost channels, lost videos. So you have to be discreet. We all know what it is. We all know the root causes of all this. So you just have to be careful how you talk about these things. Now, today, we're going to look at Toy Story 2. Enough of the intro today. We're going to be... Now, why are we decoding these films? Well, these are the most effective way to reach people. Because toys are synonymous with children, are they not? I think everyone can agree that in these Toy Story films, the toys are synonymous with children. So for the purposes of today's show, every time I say toy, I want you to replace that word with children. And when you do that, a troubling picture emerges. Themes begin to materialize through all of the Toy Story films. of what these toys have had to endure. Now, these are some of the most effective decodes because it's an animation that is sharing the same themes that shouldn't be there. Very troubling themes. Let's start to play this a little bit so you can see the intro screen here. Toy Story 2, this was 1999. The toys were boxed, caged, tortured, poked, sold, and traded. This is their words in the script, okay? Not me saying this. They even used the word torture in the script. Mr. Potato Head says they're torturing him, so I'm not making this up. Just want to be clear here. Now, these are the kinds of decodes that wake people up, because once they realize that these same themes occur in all the Toy Story films, not just one, not two, all of them, then you begin to peer inside the minds of the creators of these films and the coming agenda that they all had in store for us. And then your mind begins to come to terms with what's actually being depicted. And then you see the very inappropriate and cringy nature of all these films. Now, they could have picked literally any other storyline. But in the Toy Story films, as you see here, the toys endure all of the things listed on your screen. Now, let me give you a few clues that we'll get into later in the decode before we get into this. What you're going to see is Woody poked in the arm with a needle as his arm is being repaired. And behind the needle is a warning label on a bottle, which says that this product may cause reproductive harm. In another scene, Woody is standing on top of a vintage Time magazine cover. Or I think it's Life, actually. And it mentions Sputnik and doctors. So this is the kind of stuff we're dealing with this foreshadowing. Now, the film begins with Buzz Lightyear in a video game, and he's being chased by his nemesis, Zurg. And what you're going to see is a hexagon-shaped booby trap. And of course, there's 19 spikes on the booby trap. Let's pay this. There you see 19 spikes, 19 pokes, I call it, for Vidco 19. And this looks a lot like the needle array patch that is about to come to market to administer stickers. Here's the needle array patch here. As you can see, it looks very similar. The spikes coming out. Now, this was, again, 1999, which, of course, 999 is 666 upside down. But here's the micro needle array patch. And as you can see, it's very similar to what is chasing Buzz. Let's keep playing this here. 19 pokes. Now, interestingly, this 19 spiked cube, it forms a pair with the 37 star pattern that encompasses it. I'll show that to you right now. Now, both of these numbers that you're going to see, the 19 and the 37, here it is right here. This is called the cube star matrix. And we had discovered this probably back in 2013, 2014. We discovered this cube star matrix, that these prime numbers form a cube and star pair. Okay. Now, what does this mean? Well, I believe through the research that I've done that the cube is the hex. The star is what controls the hex. In other words, some people believe this is the pattern on the Ring of Solomon. And this could be a visual representation of how Solomon bound the demons with this pattern. Okay. So look at the star as possibly a representation of God, and the cube inside a representation of the enemy. And the star always binds the cube. It controls it ultimately, even though inside the cube, the devil is the ruler of the world. And this is why we get this cube manifestation in the natural realm in our world. So honeycombs, the pattern on a snake's skin is hexagonal. You also have snowflakes that manifest as hexagon at their base shape. So these are clues about the sin or the curse or the hex on humanity. Soon this will be done away with, and we will be, this prison will be broken apart, and we will be with God. So these are two prime numbers. 19 and 37 form a pair, and also 73 and 37 form a pair, as you can see here. And this is why the guy from Shelton from, what was it, Third Rock from the Sun or some TV show, he wore that 73 or 37 on his t-shirt because he knows about this. It's a mirror prime number pair. 7337 reads both ways. So now I don't know for a fact that that we decoded this in the way that I'm explaining it to you, that it is correct. These are just my theories on the research that I've done. Okay, I could be wrong about this, and I'll tell you guys when I'm unsure about something. In this case, I'm just throwing out there what research we've done in the past regarding this symbol. Okay, now let's keep going with this, because you're going to hear something very specific here that points forward to exactly the point in history that we are right now.
Good work, men. 2 blocks down and only 19 more to go.
2 blocks down, 19 more to go. That's, I believe, the year 2019 is what they're depicting here in that statement. 21 total blocks to go, which is the year we're in now. It began in 2019, and here we are 2 years in 2021, and most Americans have received at least one Pokemon sticker.
Till I get my cork back in.
Good work, men. 2 blocks down and only 19 more to go.
What?
19?
Are we gonna do this all night? My parts are killing me.
Choose! You must choose, Sheriff Woody. How shall she die?
You have to choose, Sheriff Woody. How shall she die? And that's, of course, Andy playing with the toys. And he's asking which death they choose, either by shark, which is somebody's name in another language, or death by monkeys, which connotates disease.
Shock or death by monkeys?
Now, this is one of several Corona references throughout the film as well. Here, Andy covers the trash can, and as the light is covered up, we get an eclipse-like effect. Well, eclipses have coronas. Now, if you're still on the fence, these things build. I don't just pull one symbol out. You have to have several symbols in order for it to make the case, right? We're like in a courtroom presenting the evidence. And so if you're like, you can't call that a corona, well, there are several references to upper respiratory disease. There's a component to that in the film when Woody meets this toy named Wheezy. And why is he wheezy? Well, he lost his squeaker. And all of this takes place on a shelf next to this ring toy here that's missing its orange and yellow rings, which are the exact colors of the sun's corona. Let's watch.
You? What's the point in prolonging the inevitable? Well, I tried squeaking, but I'm still broken. No one can hear me. Dust aggravates my condition.
So there's the squeak toy there. I turn up the volume in case you guys couldn't hear that as well. I'm sorry, not the squeak toy. This is the ring toy is what I meant to say. And it's missing the orange and yellow, the color of the corona of the sun of an eclipse. Watch. Now, there's a lot more that I wish I could say about this film, but it pretty much says it all for you. And I'm just presenting what the film is showing, and then you guys can connect the rest of the dots. This was all the way back in 1999. Now let's get into this next scene, because what you're going to see next is this theme, this thread of stories through all the films of these toys being shipped being trapped, being stolen, being sold in boxes. Watch.
Getting in the box! He's selling himself for 25 cents!
Oh, Woody, you're worth more than that.
I'll give you $50 for it. $50 ain't bad.
It's not for sale.
Everything's for sale. Or trade.
Why would someone steal Woody?
Woody was kidnapped. Exhibit B. Composite sketch of the kidnapper.
He didn't have a beard like...
Now, here's another scene where things get very specific because he's standing on a clue box, so you're supposed to look at the clues. And here in the blocks, you see F-E-D backwards. Now, they tell you in the dialogue to basically look at this backwards, F-E-D. Listen.
The kidnapper's vehicle. Now, the vehicle fled the scene in this direction.
Your eyes are in backwards.
The kidnappers fled the scene in this direction. And he points. And then he said, your eyes are backwards. So you're supposed to read it backwards. That's feds. Feds. Right? Now, the confirmation comes in this next few seconds here as you're going to see the dinosaur trip over the fed blocks. And he's going to say FBI.
Went the other way.
Hey, put a cork in. How do you spell FBI? My crime. I didn't know there was a... Put a cork in. How do you spell FBI? My crime. I didn't know there was a crime scene.
I didn't know there was a crime scene. So, what are they really saying here? What are they really saying? Now, everybody who has watched these films knows that you're supposed to pay attention to the blocks. Okay? This is widely known, and you have to pay attention to the blocks because the blocks always spell something. In this case, they spell Fed backwards or Feds, and then they say FBI. So what are they really saying here? Is this scene suggesting that the Feds are in on this somehow? Watch.
My crime scene.
Oh, why don't you watch where you're going, Godspiller?
I didn't know there was a crime scene.
You, my little cowboy friend, are gonna make me big bucks.
Now, of course, more buying and selling and being in cages and boxes. More cages. Now, all of these scenes, of course, have a more obvious explanation. That's the cover story. We've seen this time and time again with this kind of symbolism. It's doublespeak. So you present one story, but really there's an underlying theme, an underlying story. And the only way that you see it is if you stand back away from all the films and you put the puzzle pieces together, reading between the lines. And this is when you see that all of these aspects about toy vernacular, they're also doublespeak for a very dark meaning.
It's a box.
He's mint in the box. Never been opened.
We're all toys, do you hear me?
Well, that should hold you till the court, Marshal.
Let me go! You don't realize what you're doing!
Locked in boxes, tied down. Now you're starting to see the picture here. This isn't just a toy story. There's something else happening here.
Ow! Listen to me. You're not really a space ranger. You're a toy.
When she loved me, every hour spent together lives within my heart.
Hey, Woody, are you in here?
Nah, this one's empty too.
Woody.
Woody!
Didn't you know? Why, you're valuable property.
Oh, I wish the guys could see this. We're being sold to the Kanishi Toy Museum in Tokyo.
That's in Japan.
Japan? Well, we've been in storage for a long time, waiting for you. I gotta get back home to my owner, Andy. Hey, look, see?
He still has an owner. I can't do storage again. I just can't.
Jesse.
I won't go back in the dark.
Jesse.
No.
Jesse, look at me. I promise you'll come out of the box. Now go.
So when I put all that together for you in that montage, those were all the scenes from the film Toy Story 2 in which you see boxing, trading, stealing, kidnapping, the whole thing. And so when seen in sum total, back to back, then the theme emerges that it's intentional, that they want this in the minds of people. Now, this next part is just weird. And I had to slow this down super slow to catch these images as Piggy is flipping through channels super, super fast to try and find the commercial for Al's Toy Barn so that they can find the address where Woody was taken to. So Piggy's hitting this remote control and it's flipping super fast through the channels. So I had to slow it down, and I wanted to show you what I found after I make sure we're connected here, and then we'll keep going with this. All right, looks like everybody's here. Awesome. Thanks for showing up, everybody. Let's keep going with this. So there you saw a creepy baby. There is an archer. Now, this is nuts because this is a few frames from a Listerine commercial in which the Listerine bottle becomes an archer and he launches arrows at a target. Now, what makes this weird is that the Listerine is made by J&J. Let's watch. Now, we've been talking all about the serpent in the chest. The tip of the spear, the tip of the arrow, that it has everything to do with Vidco 19 because it's demon possession, right? And this is really what the serpent in the chest means. This is why we have this depiction of things popping out of chests going back through film history. Then we have the toilet paper theme or meme, which was probably all about the toilet paper shortage. Now, this isn't the first time that Listerine has used an archer in their ad. There's actually another vintage ad, a Listerine commercial or ad in a newspaper. Here it is right here. And there's a woman with an arch, with a bow and arrow. Now, this was before J&J had acquired the Listerine product. But as you can see here, J&J, and look, you see Fizzer there too. This is unbelievable. This is foreshadowing. Now, if you don't believe me, keep listening and watching because you're going to hear Sputnik. You're going to hear all the things that we're talking about right now are mentioned in this film. Now, this one's interesting. I believe this is another Pixar animation short film. They did a lot of these short films. They appear as Piggy is flipping through the channels. And I think this is from one where a snowman is trying to break through the snow globe. And this is an obvious reference to the firmament. Remember I told you guys, this is what the rockets are for. The rockets aren't for anything else. They tell us there's all these satellites up there and stuff. The real reason for all these different kinds of rockets that they test is to try to find a way through the firmament. That's what they're really doing. This is why NASA spends so much money, trillions of dollars over the past several decades in this whole space thing. It's to get through the firmament. Now, I know a guy, right? Back when I was asleep, I used to be Seventh-day Adventist during the time my children were small. And there was a guy that went to our church that worked at Vandenberg Air Force Base, and he was pretty high up there. He had a big house out in Napomo. He had a couple boys and that were friends with my son. And you could tell that they had a lot of money for someone who works in the military, and there were pictures, and he had, those hats that they wear and whatever they were doing over there. But anyway, long story short, this guy tested rockets and launched rockets from Vandenberg, and he was very secretive about it. You would think that would be great discussion to have over dinner, right? But never talked about it. What do you do? Oh, I work on rockets. Okay. And, but they're not allowed to talk about this stuff. Now, we all know that when you launch a rocket, we're told that there's what's called a sonic boom. But I wonder what that's really about. We know what science tells us it is. But look at this. They've got the TNT next to the firmament here of the snow globe. And there he is trying to weld through the snow globe with the green and red. Okay, serpent color and human color. So,
I am missing my arm!
Now, let's get into some other aspects of Toy Story 2 as we get into further into this decode. Okay, because this is going to connect all the dots for you and dot all the I's and cross all the T's for those of you that are more, detail orientated. So, here's where we get into the spiritual aspects of this, because Woody talks about missing his right arm. Now, what happened was Woody's arm got torn just before a plunger dart sticks to his forehead. So immediately on a spiritual level, I'm like, wow, the mark on the right hand and the forehead, the right arm and the forehead. Right side is what it translates to in some biblical translations. Now, we saw this in the first Toy Story film, didn't we? When Woody is burned with a magnifying glass in the right hand and the forehead. Watch and listen.
Big deal. Let him go. I'm sure his precious Andy is dying to play with a one-armed cowboy doll.
Trickus. Check.
Now, what is the purpose of this mark? Well, it's to prepare the host body for demon possession, isn't it? To split the personality. To disassociate you from yourself. Just like in yesterday's show. Remember when we decoded the film Rupture? And it was all about splitting you off into pieces. Right? So here we have the Russian doll eggs, I guess you call them. They're called troikas in Russian. What it kind of confirms what we're talking about here. Things within things. Now, this next scene I couldn't quite put my finger on. Let me play it out here.
Check. I hate yard sale.
Good job, troops. We're that much closer to Woody.
So, this is the building where Woody is being held. And it's Al, the toy maker or toy seller. It's his office building. And it's almost an exact match to the Wyndham New Yorker Hotel. Now, if you don't know about the Wyndham New Yorker Hotel, it's the hotel that Nikola Tesla died in on the 33rd floor. And back in its day, it was considered to be a self-contained power plant and a wonder of the world. It literally had a generator in its basement, was wired to the ceiling, and provided power for the entire building. It was a self-contained power plant. Now, I did a documentary on this building and what I believed the true purpose of this building was. And I provided evidence that Tesla was actually working with John Trump at Brookhaven Labs in its infancy on Long Island, which is just not that far away. It's like 10 or 15 miles away, just before he died. And that's why John was there. They were working on this frequencies, the infancy of 5G Whiz and how it interacted with human consciousness. Now, this hotel, the Wyndham New Yorker, let me play this out so you can see the similarities between these two buildings here.
Good job, troops. We're that much closer to Woody.
So there's the Wyndham New Yorker, and as you can see, it's very, very, very visually similar to the building that appears in Toy Story 2. Now understand that this building was full of copper wiring, because that's what it was. It was a power plant. There are actually images of this. I should probably pull those up. I believe I've got the documentary here on this channel. Let's look this up. Wenham, New Yorker power plant. There's some vintage images of this. Let's go see if it pulls up here. In like an old magazine. And they show a cutaway of the Wyndham New Yorker. Here's Tesla's 33rd floor. Now, everything I'm telling you here is factual. You have to look at the evidence and put it together as to what all this is really about. Let's see here. Are they going to show it to us? I don't think so. Man, there was a really old magazine that showed a cutaway of this nuclear power plant in the bottom, not nuclear, I'm sorry, electric power plant in the bottom of this Wyndham New Yorker. And I don't believe that they're going to show it to us here, and probably for good reason, because it really exposes that there was much more to this than meets the eye. Tesla wasn't just living in this building, is the point I'm trying to make. This just wasn't a place that he was just decided to hang out in. No, there was some kind of experiment going on. That's why it was a power plant. Do you think that the electric guy of the most renowned electrical engineer in world history was just hanging out in a power plant for no reason? Of course he wasn't. Let's see if we can find this here. New Yorker, Wyndham New Yorker vintage. Let's see vintage. Maybe it'll show us this here. Ad, maybe vintage ad. I don't know. Tesla slept here. Okay, we'll have to do another follow-up show. And I want to do a complete show for you guys on this Wyndham New Yorker and what actually was going on in this building. Okay, some of the first technology for ultraviolet sanitation was occurring in this building. They used ultraviolet lights to sanitize the bathrooms, and then they'd wrap them in cellophane plastic. Lots of weird stuff going on in this building. In fact, it was located very close to a train station. And there were military personnel coming in from the battlefield. I believe it was World War II. And they were allowed to stay in this upscale hotel for almost free. So, spooky stuff. Man, I wish I could find this vintage ad here, because this would be crazy if you guys could see this right now. Let's take a minute and try to find this. Vintage story, maybe? I don't know. Let's go in here. The Wyndham New Yorker. Okay, we'll just have to come back to that. I don't want to get hung up on this point here. But you guys see that this is not what it seems. Now, this story was downplayed. They try to make it sound like he was just there. That's just where he died. You know, nothing to see here. But we all know. We all know, don't we? Look at this visual similarities. Pretty much dead on, isn't it?
Oh, thank goodness you're here.
Now, what else do we have here? Well, after Woody's arm is torn, this man shows up. He's called the cleaner. They call him the cleaner. He's like a toy cleaner. And he's brought in to repair Woody because this toy dealer realizes that Woody's worth a lot of money. And he wants to sell Woody to these Japanese buyer. But he's got to fix Woody first. Now, as you will see, this mysterious toy cleaner, he looks like the kind of guy who shows up to clean up a crime scene. But watch what he does next.
Is the specimen ready for cleaning?
Now understand that this is typical. They show these people that come in. They're very discreet, and they come and clean all of the DNA from around the crime scenes. So this is really cringy, isn't it? Now look at this. Look at the warning on the top of the bottle in the background of Woody's arm that's about to get poked with a needle. His right arm contains chemicals known to cause something or other reproductive harm. Typically, these kinds of warnings occur on the side of bottles, not on the lid. So they want you to see this. Now, I'm just discussing the plot of this movie here. Not making any claims whatsoever. But you can't get more clear than this if you have eyes to see. Watch. Now, as he closes up Woody's arm, it appears to me on a spiritual level that it represents the closing up of the womb. Then Jesus said to his disciples, "Truly I tell you, it is hard for a rich man to enter the kingdom of heaven. Again, I tell you, it is easier for a camel to pass through the eye of a needle than for a rich man to enter the kingdom of God." Four needle pricks. The womb closes. And just moments later, the word Sputnik appears on the front of this Life magazine, right next to the word doctors, saying Americans don't eat enough fat. There's science for you.
Two words, Sputnik.
Now, we all know what Sputnik is. It's the name of one of the Pokemon stickers, isn't it? We heard the Sputnik in the Omicron cartoon, the vintage Omicron cartoon that we covered a couple weeks ago.
Once the astronauts went up, children only wanted to play with space toys.
Now, on to other topics. Polaroids are a huge central theme in all of the Toy Story films, and in Toy Story 2, it's no different. Lots of Polaroids. And we understand what Polaroids are used for. They're central to the trading of toys, let's say.
It's like printing my own money. And the pièce de résistance.
Why? Because you don't have to send this out to a film processing, which could get you in trouble if someone saw the images on the Polaroids. This is why Polaroids are a central theme in many of these occult films. This is why Kodak even came up with Polaroids, probably. I think it was invented in 1888, if I'm not mistaken. Now you're beginning to see behind the veil. Why would someone come up with an instant photo that you don't have to send to processing? Because it changed the game for these people who trade toys.
I promise the collection will be the crown jewel of your museum. It's showtime! Money, baby. Money.
Now, in one of the later decodes we're going to do, I think it's called Toy Story of Terror or something like that, a Halloween-themed Toy Story film. You're going to see one of the toys actually get auctioned off on like an eBay type site using these Polaroids. They put her in a box with a paper clip next to it to confirm some of the other themes that we've identified over the years. This paperclip theme, and she is sold.
Woody, you're not a collector's item. You're a child's plaything.
Now here's some other cringy scenes. Now that you understand what we're really dealing with here, you can watch and listen to these other cringy dialogue and script with new eyes and new ears. Let's back that up a little bit.
It's showtime! Money, baby. Money.
Woody, you're not a collector's item. You're a child's plaything. You are
a toy!
Oh, it's horrible. They're torturing him. What are we going to do, Buzz?
For the purposes of anyone reviewing this video, they just mentioned torture there, so I'm not saying anything that's not in this animation.
That life's only worth living if you're being loved by a kid.
Even though you're not moving, you feel like you're alive.
So this is the experience that toys have when things happen to them. They feel as though they're not moving. The time slows down.
Because that's how he sees you. Life.
Let me play that back.
That life's only worth living if you're being loved by a kid.
Even though you're not moving, you feel like you're alive. Because that's how he sees you.
He's for display only. You handle him too much, he's not gonna last.
And now, the main attraction. And now, the main attraction.
There you see the obvious devil horns, intentional. Nothing is by accident in animation. Just before he opens up the glass.
Action. No, officer, I swear.
Here he is, just about to get caught by an officer, waking up out of a dream. No, officer, I swear. Obviously was being about to be arrested. These are the nightmares of these people, that they're going to be found out and arrested. People who trade toys.
What?
Here's the release date of Toy Story 2, November 13th, which encodes A113, because 1113 is A113. And now that you know the true underlying themes about the Mark, MK Ultra, demon possession, fallen angels, and everything else, what do you think Andy's name really means? Well, you're about to see. Andy in reverse is...
We're part of a family again!
Y-D-N-A. Now, the Y chromosome is what you see on your screen here. So, do you now understand what all this is about? Andy, Y, chromosome, DNA. In fact, there is another boy in a similar role, but in a completely different movie. And one of you found this. I didn't come up with this. One of you put it in the comments section. He has almost the same name as Andy. His name is Danny from the film The Shining. Danny. So Andy really is Danny, isn't he? And remember Danny and the steam. Remember the steam from what is it, Dr. Sleep? And they had to basically, there was a very troubling scene in that film where they get the steam from the child by making the child scared, let's say. That's where the steam comes from. So now you understand that all of this is appearing in this animation. The very same themes that appear in these just dark horror films. This should not be here, you guys. It should not be here. And that's pretty much the end of the decode. I went through this with a fine-tooth comb. I wanted to make sure I did a complete job of this, and I wanted to make sure I did it correctly as to not jeopardize the channel. Now, unfortunately, some of what we talk about goes over some people's head, and so the natural response is to say, Enterthestars is wasting your time. He gets too far into the minutia. Well, if you want to avoid the minutia and you don't want to see the minutia, then you're not seeing the full picture of exactly how we're being programmed and deceived. Okay, in no way are these decodes letting anybody off the hook. If anything, they're condemning the very people who are creating our reality through television and media and everything else. It exposes them. Who wouldn't want that done? Who wouldn't want these people exposed? Well, apparently, that's what some people's criticism is of this channel, that we go too deep. Go figure. Wow. Now, we try to do a good job. If people don't understand what we're talking about, I try to open things up for discussion and answer questions. Tom tries to talk about things with you guys. So understand that that's probably a concerted effort, a new angle to try to tear down this channel. And this is what we've been dealing with over the last decade we've been on YouTube, which is why we don't have that many subscribers, for being on here for 10 years and uploading videos pretty much every day. So you can counter those kinds of arguments by telling people to come into the comments section and look at how many people have woken up because of these decodes, and that this is not a huge waste of time. You know, you guys are the boots on the ground. You guys are in other people's comment sections. You know, when you hear people coming down on this channel, it's okay to say, no, that's not the case, because that's how we're going to grow. But if you're, YouTube has everything compartmentalized. So people go to channels that they like. And if, all it takes is criticism from, people that is not addressed or not countered, for people to just go, oh, write this channel off as a waste of time, or a channel that they don't want to subscribe to. Because unfortunately, when you get into a silo of people, then people just ignore the truth. And as you guys can see, I put a lot of time into this decode, and we found things that no one else has found, only as a gift of the Holy Spirit, not because we're special. And so this work is very important. It's a record. It's a record. And it cannot really be disputed once you see the patterns. So I'm going to open up things now for just a general discussion. If you guys have any questions for us, we can talk about that. Thanks, Warrior for Truth. I appreciate you guys, and be careful how you do it, because, you don't want to start attacking people, because now YouTube's looking at comments. I would hate to lose you because you defended me, but just speak very factually, and talk about the work we do here. That's how our channel is going to grow, you guys. That's how it's going to grow. I appreciate you guys showing up every day. Okay, it's going by too fast. I got to zoom out a little bit. Wonder what the carpet is in the Tesla hotel. Yeah, good question. See if we can find that. That's a really great question. Wyndham, New Yorker. Maybe we'll try to find this vintage. Let's try this. Wyndham, New Yorker. Let's put in 1930s. Maybe that's how I found it. See here. Look at this creepy building. Power plant. Oh, here's an image here. I think this was the image we used in one of our shows. This actually shows the train station, the underground train station. And how it came right through here. Maybe I'll try to find the documentary and pin that in the comments section so you guys can see that. The New Yorker Hotel. Here's a brief history. Here's the floor. The lobby. I mean, this thing, it literally looks like the Shining Hotel or something. It's very crazy. Wonder of the World. Maybe if I type in Wonder of the World. Here's the brochure. Try power plant. Let's try that. Oh, wait, did I see something? I'll know it when I see it, because I did so much research on this when I was looking at it. Hope they didn't pull it down. They actually compared it to the Hoover Dam during its time. Secrets of the It's actually compared to the Hoover Dam. Here's the generator here, powering the New Yorker. So I'll pull up that documentary. Oh, look, here's some carpet here. Here it is. Whoa. Those look like hearts, don't they? There's hearts on the carpet. Wow. It's a lobby. I like looking at vintage photographs because oftentimes they overlook clues, don't they? They overlook clues that now they're much more careful. Here's the inside of one of the rooms. And let's try one more thing here. Vintage article. Ah, here we go. Secrets. Oh, I think this is it. I think we might have found it, you guys. Let's go back up here. Okay, so here is the actual UV ray machine. And this was used in the bathrooms. Ultraviolet ray equipment. Now think about this. This was in the 1930s. It says, renders every one of Hotel New Yorker's 2,500 bathrooms thoroughly sanitary. And then they're sealed with cellophane. Look at the size of this UV machine. What's the deal with the cellophane? See if we can find the images of the actual power plant. Oh, it looks like a short article there. Maybe going here to the archive. Look at this. Look at the plans here. Whoa. Wow, look at this. 1, 2, 3, 4. What? This looks like Thump Tower from the top. Look at that. This is the side view of the New Yorker. See how it steps down like this? Are you kidding me? As above, so below. Here's the plans, the floor plans from the tower. Where did it go? Here it is. We've done a lot of work on this. We actually decoded this. This is the Thump Tower floor plan. And look at the similarities between this and this. Wow. We see patterns on this channel. Patterns of things. Wonder if Thump Tower was designed after the Wyndham New Yorker. Makes you wonder, right? Let's keep looking through this article here. All right. Well, I'm going to do a full show. I'm going to find that power plant vintage magazine and show the cutaway and all that. It was pretty amazing. Showed all the inner workings of how the building was created. And we'll do a future show on that. Let me go back into the chat here. Thanks for hanging in there, you guys. All right. All right, you guys, I'm going to go ahead and pop off of here. Appreciate everybody showing up, and we'll see you guys tomorrow with some Between the Headlines. Take care, everybody. Be safe.